Good morning. Welcome to another Memphis Monday. Today we're going to build this ground level deck. If you've ever thought about building a ground level deck, you might want to stay tuned because that's what we're going to do next.
Well, good morning and welcome to another Memphis Monday. Memphis Monday 399, our 35th week of year 8. Last week we worked on some more sawhorses, and I've been using those sawhorses to paint deck wood for a little deck we're going to build, and that's what we're going to do today. It's still a little dark out. Let me load out my truck and I'll meet you over at the job site. So let's knock off the chit chat and get to work. Here's our sawhorses. This is our heavy duty ones that we built. And I got our conventional horses right here. These are the ones we built last week. I'll be taking those sawhorses, and some of them be using just as bucks to, you know, for cutting wood and stuff. But I also like to build a little table so I can get things up off the ground. This is an interesting thing. This is a square. I made a big square. Not my idea. I saw it on the internet somewhere. Just take a piece of plywood and make your 90 degrees from the factory cuts, and then you can use this for squaring up your corners. And this is our table, our temporary table without legs. We used on our tables without legs video. This was our prototype. And what I did, I've been leaving this thing out in the weather because I wanted to see how it holds up. And the plywood's holding up, and the wood's holding up, but my fasteners are giving way. So that's a lessons learned. And these are, the deck is going to be a strange shape, and so I brought a bunch of stakes that I'm going to use to square the deck up. Let's go take a look at the deck we're going to be building. First deck we built over here was this one here, and my buddy liked that. Then he said, well, I like that deck, so how about build me a garden bridge? And so this was a project a couple of years ago. And then he liked the garden bridge, and he said, well, how about build me a little platform deck at the front of the garden bridge. So I did that. Then he asked me to build this little platform deck for his big fancy Weber barbecue. And so now we come to today's project. So now what he wants is he wants this little platform deck extended out here and, you know, out to the sidewalk there, and fill in this grassy area here so that his mobile barbecue grill can go up on it. And so that's what we got to stake out today. Now that's left us with a kind of a strange shape. Let me show it to you. Now here's a little drawing I've done of the job. The deck we're building is here, and this is the deck that's already there. Now, the reason I'm making a big deal about making this thing square is because I want the new deck boards to line up with these deck boards over here. They'll extend out this way. So to get that square, what I want to do is line up a square that's 14 feet this way and 16 feet this way, and then this angle's already set over here by the sidewalk and this deck here, so that angle has to be, that's that angle. Now I want the other angle to be the same angle. The alternative is to make it 45, but that would make it look funny because those two angles wouldn't be the same. So let me make some preliminary measurements here and see if I can fit this rectangle in that area. Well, I got the rectangle laid out using my big square. Now I made that the rectangle, the square, just to keep the whole, you know, the whole project square. But actually the deck itself is going to be cut at an angle right through here. So what we need to do now is excavate here where I'm standing, all around in here. We're going to excavate down about 6 to 8 inches so that we can get our little platform foundation in place. Here you can see the little excavation underneath the other deck. Now the reason that's important is we want this deck to be as low to the ground as possible, but of course it can't sit on the ground. So we're bringing it down, you know, as shallow as we can, and it's basically going to be skimming the sod off, and then we have to make sure that our foundation is level. I got the area dug out here. Now the reason I'm really digging this out is because I want some airspace underneath the deck. You can't put this treated wood right down on the ground. Now this is pretty sandy, so it wouldn't be
as bad, but still you need airspace under there. So what I'm doing is I'm putting in a rim joist all the way around. You know, this isn't really a deck, it's a platform. There's no code for it. And I'm framing it with 2x4s on 16-inch centers. And I'll reinforce it with concrete blocks underneath. But anyway, I'm putting the rim joist in with these posts with 4x4 treated posts that'll be setting in concrete. But right now it's all dry because I'm going to get the rim joists in and then and make sure it's all level before I put any concrete in. Let me show you how I'm doing that. Each one of the posts are set in the ground. The rim joist is nailed, and you know, everything's nailed up, but there's no concrete in the holes. So these things here are adjustable to make sure it's level. Same thing over on this side. I'm taking it off the pre-existing deck. These posts are in the ground, but they're not concreted in, so I can adjust them for level. But before I put the joists in here, you can probably see a joist. I don't know if this is in the camera, but if I ran, the deck boards are going to be going this way, so my joists have to be going this way, and which would mean that I would need like 14-foot joists through here, and of course we're not going to do that. So to that end, we're installing a beam across here. And whenever possible, install your joist hangers before you put your joists in, your rim joists in. It's not always possible, and I'll show you some tricks on that later. But right now I'm installing the joist hangers on the beam. This is how this works. These are these little 2x4 joist hangers. Now, there's other kind of joist hangers for 2x4s, or any kind of joist hangers. Let me show you this other type. There's this kind of joist hanger also that hangs over the top. It's got those two little ears on it. Here's the ones we're using. There's one of the ears, and obviously this one's going to hold up a lot more weight, but that's not practical on a deck because you're going to have deck boards up here, so we're not using those. So to get these positioned correctly, we use a piece of remnant. I got it pre-marked where it's going to go. And this is a strap nailer here. This is a nailer for nailing on these you know, metal parts. And if you can do a lot of this, this is really the way to go. If you've ever tried to nail these in by hand, it's a real nightmare. So I'll go ahead and I'll get these joist hangers attached to this beam, and we'll install the beam. Well, here's that beam I was talking about we were working on. It goes right in here. forgot to put this on here. This is an angled joist hanger. I think it's called a strong tie, I'm not sure. But this is what you use when you have to attach a joist to an angled piece. This is my neighbor Jim. He's helping. He said he was tired of me goofing off, so he decided to come out here and try to speed things up. Well, I got that. We got the beam in, and then we put the joist in from this side. Now we're going to support the joists with those paving stones and some treated wood on top of it, and we'll be adding joist hangers on this side. Right now we just got them toe-nailed in, not toe-nailed, end nailed. We got concrete in all the holes now, and so the next big project will be put these angled joists in. And the only thing complicated about this is that each one of them will have to have an angle down here on the end. But we should be able to figure that out.
Good, good. Fasteners are installed correctly. Good, good job.
Hey, this is a real carpenter. You know, I've told you guys all the time that I'm not a carpenter, I'm a woodworker. A carpenter is a trade in itself, and then there's sub-trades. They got framers and finish carpenters and roofing contractors and all that stuff. This fellow right here, we call him New Jersey Dave. He's a real carpenter. He just built his own house, and so I'm pretty nervous about this job because he's working on another job right next to me. So, but anyway, thanks for being on camera.
Anytime. Keep up the good work.
There you go. Thanks. Yeah, it's always you know, it's always sort of nerve-wracking when you have a guy who really knows what he's doing looking at your work. He did point out some things I probably didn't need to do. I'd probably do them anyway just because I'm nervous. But anyway, what I'm doing now is I'm going to show you how to cut an angle that is more than 45 degrees with a circular saw. If you do it on a miter saw, it's pretty easy. You can just adjust your wood until the angle's right. But if you're just using a circular saw on job site, there's a couple of ways to do it, but I'm going to show you the way I do it. Let me show you the angles we've got to come up with. So you've got to come up with is the joist got to come in here and meet this angle here at about 51 degrees. And so that's the angle we're going to try to cut. So what I do is set my joist in place and then reach up under it here and mark the angle that I want. So now I have that angle marked. Now let's go over and cut it. Now there's Other ways to do this with a circular saw. The method I'm familiar with is to take the angle, take this angle right here, and let me check and see what it is. It's 53 degrees. So what you do is you subtract 53 from 90. What is that? 37. And you cut a 37-degree angle, and then you set your saw to 90 degrees and cut another angle off that cut. Now you can check that out on the internet, how to cut an obtuse angle using a circular saw, and you'll see that technique. But we're not going to use that technique today. We're going to use a method I came up with. I'm calling it the Z method. I got my angle and I just put a 90-degree cut across there. Now I come to the other side and do the same thing. And then I connect these two lines. Connect these two lines up. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this going this way using a jigsaw. And there's my 53-degree angle. Let's go see if it works. Okay. And now what I do, I got the angle cut. I know you don't care, Susan. I'm talking to the camera because I got it running.
Oh God! Why didn't you tell me?
Well, because I want to cherish this moment. What do you think the beautiful comment was about? I already started putting the decking on yesterday. We got kind of rained out. I started putting the decking on in the rain. Doesn't hurt it, except I had to run my air compressor inside the bed of my pickup. Here's a framing scheme. These frames here were only about 6 feet long, but we propped them up in the middle with these paving stones all along there. Put nogging in, and then we propped the nogging up with some treated wood between the paving stones and the nogging. So now, you know, I think we have a sag-proof system. Additionally, we're putting in nailers. You can see it here and here, down here. Here's another one. Here's another one. We're doubling up the 2x4s wherever there's a joint That's not absolutely necessary. I just like to do it. It's makes a better joint. So that's the framing scheme. And here's the decking scheme. This muddy, wet wood across here, I did this in the rain yesterday. 2 points here. I went ahead and stained this decking wood. You know, that's the reason we built those all those sawhorses, so I could lay this stuff out and put stain on it. So that's kind of an important thing, because now it's stained on both sides, and now this thing can just be cleaned up and restained, and it'll look really good. Second point is, I was really careful about getting these boards lined up, these boards here lined up with these boards here. You know, and it's purely aesthetics, because if they were crooked at all, your eye would pick up on it. So I made sure that I got all those lined up. And then the third point, all this is nailed with 2 3/8 inch ring shank nails, which I prefer, but the far end down there, the east end, we're putting those deck boards in with screws, so that if we need to get to the utilities that run under the deck, the boards will be easier to get off. And I might have talked about this before, but when you do a platform deck like this, or a platform that's as low to the ground as you can get it, you still need space underneath the joists. So we made a great effort to, you know, make sure there's plenty of space underneath the deck for air circulation, and keep the water completely away from the deck. And what this is all about is, this is just a bar clamp, a pipe clamp I have anchored at that end, and then down here to pull that board in as close to that other board as I can get it. When you put these deck boards in, you need to get them, unless you're using cedar or mahogany or some kind of wood that's already dry. Most of this deck wood has a moisture content can be as high as 60%. So you need to get it as dry as possible. Let me show you what happens if. Well, let me tell you what I did here. Now, what I did here on this deck right here, this other deck, is I let those boards dry for about 2 months before I installed the deck. Consequently, since those boards were fairly dry, and I pulled them together pretty tightly when I put them in, I got nice joints. Now let me show you what happens when you don't do that. On this fancy deck we built a couple of years ago, let me show you, we put those deck boards in and they were too wet. I didn't let them dry. And let me show you what happened. Here you can see what happened. See how wide the spacing is between those boards. Now, if you're okay with that, and the owner of this deck doesn't seem to bother him, but I think the spacing of that wood is too far apart. You can really see it right here. Look how that end right there's, that must be half an inch. So one of the precautions I took on our deck boards is that I didn't start building the deck until the moisture content fell below 25%. Well, that does it for Memphis Monday $3.99. Today we built this odd-shaped ground level deck, free-stained decking. Half of it we attached with screws, and the other half we used ring shank nails. We lined it up with the deck that was already up here, and overall, I'm pretty satisfied. Well, that does it for Memphis Monday $3.99. Today we built a little ground level deck. Sometimes people ask me, what did that cost? And a lot of times I don't even know, because I don't keep track of it, because I use material that I already have, and then I buy some material and I buy too much and I only use part of it. It's just too hard to figure. But in this case, my neighbor bought the material, and I can tell you it cost $350 to build that deck. So that's some good information. Now, we had the 4x4s already, so we didn't have to buy those, and that's not counting fasteners, but you know, there's a few dollars there, not much, but that's about how much it costs. The takeaways for these ground level decks is you got to make sure you have some airspace underneath, and that's well drained, and you know, just keep it all square and keep all, in this case we were lining it up with another deck, so we had to make sure the boards lined up with that other deck, or it would have looked funny. So that's a takeaway. All right, so like, favorite, share, and all the stuff you do on the internet. But most important, make sure you're back here next week for another exciting Memphis Monday. Thanks for playing along.